talking. I was talking about that episode of Cops with the guy that got pulled over, just came out of his car, guns blazing, shooting at the cop, shot the cop in the leg, luckily. But, what I forgot to mention was the root cause. Again, the money. It always comes back to the money. So much of the crime, so many of the homicides pertain to money. We've got to wake up and realize this fact. Even domestic stuff, domestic violence, all this stuff is financial stress, financial insecurities, financial fear plays on people and breaks them psychologically. And we've got to know that humanity is like a chain. We've got weak links. So if you want to stop this kind of violence, that's the key. Recently down here in Southern California, I believe it was, this past week, a cop was shot, just ready to retire. He had, I think, 5 kids. Another woman, lady cop, she had just had a baby, okay? And these people, everything to live for, and they just got gunned down purposelessly in cold blood for no reason. They went out to a domestic violence call. And this is what happens. Okay, so this stuff is not to be taken lightly. It's very serious stuff. This is the stuff of wars and all this. We've got to know what's going on here. You've got to know the power of the purse, the power of the money printing presses, the power of money. That's it. That's what these people possess. They have the copyright. The FBI will come down on you if you try to print funny money, counterfeit currency, okay? But these people are doing it right and left in our faces. They must own. Do they own the FBI? How do they have that kind of power over the presidency, over Congress? They say nobody. Alan Greenspan's own word says they can't overrule anything that we decide. Okay, there's nobody more powerful than us, says Alan Greenspan of the Federal Reserve. These people make me want to vomit. Okay, all these politician types that are sycophants and deferring to these kind of people, okay, as the real boss, they understand, well, hey, I know which side my bread is buttered on. So the message is, wink, wink, go ahead, give yourselves a raise. Just increase your own numbers. So all these politicians give themselves a raise. What do they care if their economic policies cause your cost of living to skyrocket? They don't. That's how they operate. This debt is going to be in perpetuity. Who is talking about paying off the debt besides Donald Trump out there? Nobody. This is absurd that there's even a doubt in our minds. How could we even consider seeing the Clinton family in the White House again? Haven't we had enough of these people? Okay, let them crawl back in their hole where they belong. We don't need these people. And it has nothing to do with Hillary being a woman. I've got daughters who either one of them would make 1,000,000 times better president than Hillary Clinton. Anyway, all the women I know, in fact, would be better. And I'd vote for a lot of them. I would, that I know. Okay, I voted for, what's her name, Roseanne, when she was running. And I not because she was a woman, not because she was a comedian, not because she was famous, but because I believed in her policies. I liked her. I know she's smart. Comedians, funny people, typically are very smart. And so I admire, a good comedian. That's true. But, I voted for her because I liked her stand on stuff. But a lot better than the choices we had. Who I can't even remember. Who was it? John McCain and Obama? John McCain. Oh, he's another one that was complicit in that Benghazi thing, right? Isn't he the one that said, I know these people intimately? The terrorists, he's referring to the radical jihadist types. Okay, we're talking about your Wahhabists, we're talking about your Al-Qaedas, your Al-Nusras, your ISIL and your ISIS and all these people. It's all the same cabal. It's a proxy army for the New World Order types, your Hillary Clintons and your John McCain's out there. See, I could care less. If Donald Trump was a Democrat, I'd feel 100% the same way. I'd be just as absolutely had nothing to do with political party loyalty or affiliation. Nothing at all. Nothing. Because the way I'm always talking about JFK. And speaking of womanizers, JFK, from many accounts, was a big womanizer. He loved women. And that doesn't make adultery okay. It does not. Okay, it's not okay. I don't believe it's okay. But we have to be honest and say it does happen regularly that people are step outside their marriages. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's both. So it's not always the men, it's usually the men you hear about. Just like so many things, it's just, you never hear of women going to jail for indecent exposure, but it happens to men all the time, right? It's just that rape, it never happens to women. You never heard of a woman charged with rape, or seduction, but we know they have a lot of power in that regard to seduce a man. But, you never hear about rape because, the men it doesn't happen. So, it's an interesting, intriguing situation we have with the male and female. Different rules apply differently. We have to understand it's because of our character makeup. It's because of our nature, the nature of the beast, the nature of the female beast, the nature of the male beast. But the point is that, the whole thing with Donald Trump is just maddening because we know that this doesn't disqualify him to be the commander-in-chief because he's had a few, locker room indiscretions with, criminals like Billy Bush that's, taking this information with one-party notice. If Donald Trump had known he was being taped and that tape could come out later, you think he would have done it? No, this is a felony. And Billy Bush should be in jail, at least temporarily, until he bails out, bonds out on his OR. Maybe Daddy Bush, his I forget the relationship he's got, but he's related to these Bushes. They sicken me. They all sicken me. All these neocons or New World Order cabal, they're liars, cheaters, thieves, and murderers. That's who they are. I've got no regard. I don't care what party they are because they're in both parties. They've infiltrated. We've got black hats in high places, and we've all got to know that. And, if we're ever going to extricate ourselves from the problems we're facing in America and all over the world as a result, okay, because we've been the most powerful, influential nation on the earth. If we're going to fix this, anything short of the return of Jesus, then we've got to get serious. We've got to grab the bull by the horns. We've got to understand the problem, understand it very clearly, make no bones about it. It is the issuers of the currency, the money masters. It is the money printing press, the power therein of the purse, okay? That be very clear. That doesn't matter how you measure the dollars, if it's cash or if it's digital or whatever. These people have the power to destroy our economy. The power to tax is the power to destroy. And remember, your cost of living is no different from a tax. I mean, if the effects don't feel any difference that you're being overburdened by a government entity or a private entity, who cares? Who cares? You understand? I'm trying to be logical here and get points across so people understand, so I edify and instruct properly. So know the problem, know the source, know the causers. And then you've got to say, no, we're not going to tolerate it anymore. Because if I tolerate it, I become an accessory. An unwilling accessory, but nonetheless an accessory by my silence. It speaks volumes. It's saying, go along to get along, just go along. It's social Darwinism. We're just going to let a whole lot more people die out in the cold unnecessarily as we drive up housing prices, and that leads to a chain reaction, which drives up all the prices of all your commodities and all your services because, hey, it's part and parcel. If you've got one commodity you can't get away from, like housing, it's going to drive up the cost of everything else because everybody's tied to it. Everybody needs housing. So as they pay more and more tax, housing tax, wherever it goes, to the landlord, to the government, to the mortgage holder, whoever it goes to, understand that that's a bad thing, okay? That's taxation without representation. People don't even understand the problem. They don't understand that the cost of living is a tax. I'm not talking about trinkets and knickknacks and luxury items, unnecessary things. I'm talking about things that are absolutely needed by human beings. Our standard of living, if we were making an iota of progress, should go up. That's what sound currency brings you. That's what true supply and demand, free market economic policies bring you. It's a natural thing. It doesn't have to be forced at all. It's a flowing thing. It's just progress. As you learn easier and easier ways to provide the things you not only need, like food and housing and energy and clean water, but the things you want, then the prices go down. That's what's supposed to happen. That's progress. And along with that, the crime rate drops, the dubious war drops, the debt drops, the prostitution, the abortion, the drug use, and all the other forms of escapism that we engage in. We're trying to run away from our problems, folks. That's why we're engaging in things that are unseemly and unbecoming, even if it's just conversation, the way we talk. I mean, I'm lucky that my dad was a very great poet. He may not be famous, but he was a great poet. He wrote a lot of stuff himself. And he had a huge following of fans and people that loved him dearly because of it. He was a very deep guy. And a lot can say, hey, always a socialist. He liked Che Guevara and this and that. Hey, you know what? Like I said, he blamed the Republicans for the assassination of JFK, okay? And I know a heck of a lot of conservatives, of which I'm one of them. Remember, I'm a devout conservative and a devout liberal. You'll be very hard-pressed to find any more liberal or conservative than myself, okay? I choose to be that person. I choose to embrace the best of both parties and leave the crap behind. All the pseudo-liberalism and all the pseudo-conservatism. That's what any of us can do. It's our prerogative to do that. Okay, you have a privilege. You have a right to do that thing, to choose to be exactly who you want to be. But you see, I understand my dad. I understand he liked a good socialist. But Che Guevara, I agree that he had violent tendencies. But, I think of a guy like Alex Jones criticized when Alex Jones can be very militant too. So, so I'm not judging I'm not judging Che Guevara. That's God's business. Or I'm not judging Batista, who was a piece of crap too. We all know he was affiliated with the gangsters in the United States. I mean, these people, they're all troublemakers and instigators. So we know that there's, you could call yourself a socialist, you can call yourself a capitalist, you could do anything under any banner, but it could be just to besmirch the name. It's lost all meaning. These are subjective terms. What are we talking about? A good socialist like Gaddafi, who was really doing things for the people, the grassroots people, the people at the bottom, trying to end poverty, try to create employment for people, build the societies and raise the standard of living? Or is it a bad guy? So you look at each person on an individual basis. These are all just terms that we use. And we've got to understand that, I'm lucky that I had a guy like my dad, for example, that told me, hey, you know what, he made me recite poetry. In fact, until the day he died, I was reciting poetry with my dad, my nephew and I. And, I remember a line out of one of the poems was in reference to vulgar, to watch your speech and to you never be vulgar. And you know what? I'm glad, because there's many occasions when I have, thought about being vulgar, because I have that tendency. I'm a man, I'm human, and everybody gets, biological urges. We feel randy, whatever you want to call it, horny. But, it's a very natural thing that God built in, these hormones, to drive us to procreate. The procreation drugs, the testosterone, the women have the estrogen, right? That drives us. It makes us feel these things. So, out of the heart, we're feeling these things, and our heart, the body is all so well, it's all built together. Okay, integrated is the term I'm looking for. It's also well integrated, the body and mind, and of course, the things in the heart come out the mouth and all this stuff. So yes, we all can say vulgar things. And I've said things I'm sorry for. In fact, at my high school reunion, I remember talking about a friend of mine that has passed. In fact, he died a long time ago. We would have both been 58, so this was when he was 34, so we're going back 24 years. But he died of a heroin overdose. And, a drug I never got into. But, I feel sorry for him. And, I believe it was about running. The people get on drugs, they're running from stuff. I remember hearing stories about him being in debt to this guy, and this guy owed him a lot of money and burned him. And, this weighs on a man's conscience, And so they turn to drugs to drown out their conscience, essentially, okay? And a lot of this is related to money. So this is where a lot of suicides and overdoses all relate to the money, too. Stuff we would never connect the dots to. But I do. But anyhow, I had said some things that were untoward about my friend Brett. And you know what? In retrospect, I wished I hadn't. Because I'm going to probably meet Brett, in another realm. And I say, you know what? I'm sorry I said that, Brett. I mean, it did happen, but, it was a vulgar thing you did. And, it was kind of an assault and this stuff. I don't know why I felt the need to say it, but, it was just, we're talking about people we knew from the past and that we went to school with. But it's still happening. So I'm still having to keep myself in check. So I'm not sitting here and saying I'm in any way perfect, but I'm working on it. And I'm lucky. Okay, I had an advantage to have a dad that would talk to me like this. And that doesn't mean he was ever perfect. Okay, we had our share of skirmishes, believe me, growing up. It got so bad when I was 14. I know I was sailing with him on a boat he had built in the Santa Cruz Mountains in the town of Felton. 48-foot trimaran, 6-bedroom, 2 bathrooms, big, beautiful teak wheel.